As I stand before you, my people, on this day of jubilant celebration, I say to you, will we find the devil in the bushes? No. He will be perched high on the peace tree, devouring the sucking of fruit as the poverty weeds lay waste in the field. So revel not in the fascinations of man and realize the accountability of the just and unjust. For at that moment, may we all be caught up like a rushing wind to meet on that jumbo jet flight we call life.
Welcome to Do the Damn Show. I'm your host, the tatted, the fatted, the one and only Casey Hughes. And with me in the studio, as always, co-host and producer.
SuperFaron in the brand new studio.
In the brand new studio, who doesn't have headphones on.
Oh, shoot. I thought it was awfully quiet in here.
And we have a very special guest today, Miss Marie Griffith. How are you?
I'm good. Thank y'all for having me.
Glad that you're here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Now it's so loud.
Yeah, now it's so loud, right?
What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the spirit hits you? Hey, now what you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the spirit hits you? Hey, now what you gonna do? Can I leave my family fortune and still take on no more care? With the next bed that I take, reveal it there. Could you lend your hand for me? Take all my wants and not my needs. I wanna lay my riches up on the other side. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the spirit hits you? Hey, now what you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do when the spirit hits you? Hey, now what you gonna do?
And we're back.
Yeah, I was saying I went from barely being in the shot to this new setup
Now
is.
you're in it.
Looks like it's the Farron show.
That's
so
it. You know?
we're gonna have to rethink this.
I like to be. What was the?
I can't suck in for a whole hour and a half.
What was the on the Inspector Gadget, the cartoon? What was the villain? You never saw his face. He just had that cat.
And you always heard the
claw.
voice. Oh,
Was it
what
Dr.
his
Claw or something?
name? Something like that.
That's what I prefer to be, and that's why I'm glad that I'm half in and half out.
Yeah,
So,
but I got these other cameras set
Yeah.
up, man.
you
You're
got
full
one
on this one.
pointing straight ahead.
I mean, even more professional.
Everything.
Got one that's got just Marie in it, so awesome.
How was your week, man?
My week was really great for the most part. Had a rough day, but the rest of the week, I mean, you know, when you're this blessed, and when you got this many people in your life that love you,
This is very true.
then what can you say, man? Just blessed.
Well, I'm going to timestamp it. Obviously, I don't feel good. I've been battling some kind of head cold. I got stung in the eye by a yellow jacket yesterday. You know, closed it up. At least I could see out of it today. But, you know, it is what it is. Other than that, it's been a great week, man.
You sent me that picture, and it took me a minute to register, and I was like, I think I didn't have my glasses on or something. I was like, why is he winking? Is there a joke here? Is there a joke? I don't see nothing funny. And then I put my
Winky
glasses
face.
on. I was like, ooh.
And like we said in the intro, we have Marie here from livelikeitmatters.net. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Tell us what that is, just real quick, just in a nutshell.
A blog I started in 2011. I just had some things that I wanted to share, and I started writing. I've always been a writer. So in the age of internet, you can do that. You can make a blog, and you just go with it.
It's a great blog too.
I mean, look at us. We got a podcast.
That's right. I mean,
It started in my laundry room, and then
Right.
became, now we're here.
yeah.
But I think that's one of the coolest things about technology is,
Yes.
everybody, there's some bad things, but the good things is you can do just about anything.
We have a voice.
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
a voice.
Things that we can do now that, were impossible 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Only like 20 years ago.
It's so crazy to me to think of like how far things have came in such a short period of time.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
To think how much crazier they're going to be in another 20 years.
Well, and it's supposed to be like exponential, right? So it's not only does it keep changing, but the changes are supposed to come faster and faster,
Yeah.
more and more.
Well,
and all this AI stuff
well,
going
I
on.
was going to say with AI.
I've been looking for a sign to put in the window, the on air, so people will know that we're recording. And I was looking for it, and I'm looking through, and I'm like, we're not really on air anymore.
Yeah.
It's because that's from
On
radio
air.
days when it actually traveled through the air and radio waves.
Well, and everybody that's come on here and said, "Oh, I've never been on the radio before," we make fun of and call them Grandpa, Grandma. Yeah. Before we get into anything serious, I'd like to say a couple of things about the studio, man. Look,
dude.
look! I can do this now.
You can move.
We can do this. We can, if we wanted to get wild, we could have a fourth person in here sitting with us and everything. But a couple other things I'd like to point out. Now, we realize that our one and only sole sponsor of this show is our good buddy Jason Such with Primetime Lawn Care at 606-3064.
Right there.
606-3064. Oh, yeah, there we go. That's our cue card. Love you, Jason. Yes, he is our exclusive sponsor, and he's fantastic. And if you listened to a previous episode from not too long ago, I can't even timestamp it if I want to. I don't remember when it was. But I mentioned that I didn't know if he'd still like me anymore because he was doing my parents' yard. Oh, well, not only did he do a fantastic job, but my parents, a total of like 4 times now, did we tell you how happy we are with the yard? Did we tell you how awesome it is? Yeah, you did. Oh, okay. And then
I
the
love
next
it when
day,
old people do that.
Hey,
man.
I just wanted to let you know. Make sure you tell your friend how happy we are with the yard. Yeah, I did. But I said all that
to say this.
He's not a sponsor, but he's a friend. A guy I met in PTHD met.
That's
in,
right, PTHD
in Gulf Shores that had a whacked out wiener location. The Gulf Shores, and he gave me some swag, and he's been listening to the show and supporting it and sharing it, and he gave us this big whacked out wiener. I got my wiener whacked
at the whacked out wiener
sticker. So I said, Casey, can we put this sticker somewhere in the studio, right? So Casey said, I'll do you one better. So now Kramer has won a championship of some kind.
Heavyweight wiener champion.
And he's got the belt. He's got the belt. So there you go. So
does this mean that you think Seinfeld is the best comedy of all time?
It's not the best, but I love Seinfeld.
Okay.
I love Seinfeld.
See, mine would be between The Office or Friends.
See,
Office and Friends?
The Office is that is probably number one.
Yeah.
That is probably number one.
Well, do you guys remember?
Yeah.
Dwight Schrute's the best. Do you guys remember when? Well, I don't think The Office did, but do you remember when the Thursday night on NBC was like all of like Friends and Seinfeld and
there was something Frasier.
Frasier was on, and then there was something else. I think there was one slot that kept rotating. Like, I get that one slot right. But
I was in my 20s when I realized that Frasier was a spinoff from Cheers.
Yeah. Did you know that they're rebooting
Dr. Frasier used to go to Cheers. I never put that together until I was in my 20s.
I just saw this week that they have announced that Frasier is rebooting, and it's going to be either on Peacock or on Paramount Plus. There's a new Frasier.
So we were watching Home Improvement the other day. It was, I forget what it was on. It was on one of the streaming services, and so I sat down and watched it. And Zeppelin, that's my youngest daughter. She goes, "What are you watching?" I was like, "Look, I used to watch this every day when I got home from school." So we were sitting there, and she was actually laughing at it. And I was like, "Hey, good humor still sticks, all the way through."
Oh, a phrase from that show stuck with me for a long time, and I would say it to my friends. We would say, "I don't think so, Tim," because
that's what Al said all the time. I don't think so, Tim.
He said that all the time.
There's so many of those catchphrases too. Every time we're moving something, it pivot. Yeah, from Friends every time.
Yeah, it's amazing how that stuff sticks.
Yeah.
Just good quality. We were talking about music before we started recording. You think about all the bands that have hung around. Like Aerosmith, they're on their farewell tour. Yeah. I don't know if it'll be like Kiss, where there's 20 farewell tours.
Yeah.
But when you got something unique like that, it just stands the test of time all the way through. So, Marie, we're glad that you're here. I, for one, I used to read your blog. It was probably close to when you first started doing it. So that would have been, I'm going to say 2012, something like that, or 2013, because you said it started in 11, right? Mm-hmm. So I haven't followed it, obviously, but I do remember a lot from that. And a lot of things that you talked about, especially the things that I did read, and I would imagine that heart hasn't changed over the years, is definitely geared towards what this show is all about. And that's helping people understand. It's a phrase that real people with real problems need a real God. Yeah. And a lot of times man gets in the way. Man will get in the way and put God in the box.
Right.
And then they turn around and try to put God's people in a box. And that's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited and interested to hear your story because I don't know your story. I don't know what led you to that point. And so you just jump right in there and start sharing wherever you'd like to.
Okay. Well, I had mentioned before we started recording, I grew up with parents that were hardworking, good parents, but my dad was addicted to alcohol. And so we were around the church, but we didn't like go all the time, you know. But I do not remember a time in my life where I didn't know the name of Jesus. It's just kind of like, it was around. It was just part of our language. Even though we didn't go all the time, you know, Jesus was just part of our lives. And so, but because of that, I was just confused about, because the church, my mom felt, I think, ashamed because of my dad's drinking. And so she felt like an outsider at church when we did go.
Sure.
And so I think I had some of that. But still, I was saved in the Baptist church and as a little girl and got baptized probably at the age of 10. Even then, though, I was curious about more. And, you know, I did VBS. I did some camp, Christian camps in the summer. And so all of that was great. You know, sword drills. I don't know if y'all know what those are.
I do.
You know, you like
I do. I was that church kid too, and I was at I was at church camp every
church
summer.
camp. God,
Yeah.
we might have went to the same one if you're from around
Where'd you
here.
go?
I don't even remember what it was called, but I went every summer.
Do you remember where it was? Like what city?
Yeah, it was right around here somewhere.
Oh, okay. The one I went to every year for like 8 or 9 years was called Camp Chula Vista, but it's in Pell City.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
But anyway, we had this big, you know, gathering place, the tabernacle, you know, whatever. And the kids would gather there and they do sword drills. So you don't know what that is, Casey?
No, I really don't know what
don't
that is.
know
I
what
grew up in church all my
they would
life.
say, okay, John 3:16. So every kid is holding their Bibles up like this. And then you have to flip to find the
So who finds it first?
verse. And
Oh,
Because it's your sword, right? Sword of the Spirit.
then
Yeah.
sword drill.
golly.
Yeah, and we would
Talk about dance monkey.
well, and we would as junior high age, we would love it when one of us would get to be the one to call out the verses for the sword drills, because somebody would always, you know, pull out Jesus wept. Because I thought that's so funny.
That was my favorite one to quote.
And there was always the pervert in the group who was just surfing through Song of Solomon because he wanted you to have to read some verse about your navel being like a goblet and all this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So I was, you know, around all of that. But then at the age of 12, we moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee because my dad wanted to stop drinking because he realized it was ruining his life. I mean, my dad was so, like, addicted to alcohol. And he was like a binge drinker. Like, it wasn't like he was drinking every day. He would drink and be drunk for like 3 weeks straight.
Yeah.
Passed out on the floor, not able to go to work or whatever. And so whenever he would try to stop on his own, he would have major withdrawals,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
you know, and grand mal seizures and all that. So he went to rehab, halfway houses, things like that. But when I was 12, like I said, he decided, no, I'm going to change my life. He wanted to go to seminary, so we moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee. But within a year, he had been kicked out of seminary because he had started drinking again. And so I just remember that time my mom was probably just so disappointed because she'd left her career here to move there. But we did spend 6 years in Chattanooga. But I went the whole typical teenage thing. Made bad choices, sneaking out of the house.
Yeah, we all did, right?
I mean, you know, but I was still considered good, you know, because I was making good grades. And
Right.
they didn't know about us sneaking out of the house, except one time we got caught and it was bad. But, you know, and we did get caught drinking beer in the laundromat of our apartment because we lived in an apartment complex. Anyway, so that was typical what I was doing. But at the age of 18, 19, I moved back here, started going to Calhoun Community College, then Athens.
Go War Chickens.
Yeah.
War chickens.
And I was working and, was kind of interested in God, but not going to church or anything. But I don't know what the catalyst was, but at some point at the age of 23 or 24, I started wondering, what is all of this? What does it mean for my life? And so I started doing a Bible study called Experiencing God. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of it, but Henry,
I think I have.
Henry Blackaby,
Uh-huh.
it completely changed my life because I took Jesus died for me, Marie.
Right.
It wasn't just the whole world.
Right.
It became very personal for me. So that was just, as I moved on, at the age of 27 is when I said, I give my whole life to you, whatever that means. Like and by this time I was already married, already had 2 kids. And so I was just so excited. Go ahead.
I just want to ask you a question. And if it's too personal of a question, just tell me and I'll edit this out.
Okay.
But when you said that happened at 27, but you were already married and you had the kids, was it just you or was the whole family
No, it was
in
just
agreement?
me.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, so it started both of us, but at the age of 27, we had actually already hit a rough patch, in the marriage. But anyway, so I made that commitment and I was very excited about it and really did the whole, what a lot of us do. I threw myself into the church, like
Yeah.
all in. And I can look back now and God used that in a significant way in my life, of course. And it was a beautiful time because at that point I was doing it out of love and thankfulness and gratitude. At some point, though, it became where I was performing.
Yeah. Religion.
And I was exhausted. I would have never told anybody that I'm trying to earn because I understood grace.
Yeah.
Well, here,
Yeah.
but there was still part of me that was always like anxious about where I stood with God.
Yeah.
When I was in that as well, which was my entire Christian life up until I was probably mid-30s at least, if not 40, I had this weird thing where I thought I understood grace. Where basically I thought that what it meant was God loved us so much that he gave us the opportunity to earn his love and eternity with him.
Yeah.
Because he didn't have to do that,
Yeah.
And so that was my weird misconception, twisted, grace of what is this grace thing? Well, it's God provided a way that we can make this happen.
Right.
Instead of what grace truly is, which is, all about what he did.
Well, I love what Dallas Willard says. I don't know if I've ever read anything by him, but he's awesome.
Wait, is that Amy Garnett's husband? Oh,
Willard?
wait. No, Dallas Willard. Okay, sorry.
Dallas
Not
Willard.
Willard.
Sorry, Amy. I try to get Amy in every episode because then I can text her. This morning I text her, Amy, your name got dropped in the episode again. She goes, oh, I'm a couple episodes behind and I got to catch up.
But Dallas Willard said, grace is not opposed to effort, only earning.
Oh, wow.
Love it.
Isn't that beautiful?
Love it.
Because guess what? God did give us agency and choice because otherwise it's not love, right?
Right.
If he just forced us to do it, and that's a question. Like my son really wonders why. Like he deals with the problem of pain, meaning the pain of the world. He doesn't get it. Why didn't God just make make certain things happen? Well, because he gives us choice.
Yeah.
And there's love requires that, right?
So I was going to say, I had an interesting conversation with somebody this week about that exact sentiment was true love only comes at the cost of being able to make that choice.
Right.
You can't, and I'm twice divorced. You know what I mean?
What?
We're not going to get into how many times Farron is, but
Why didn't you tell me this before I agreed to be on this show?
but it's one of those things where, you know, I don't think there's any one person for any one person. I don't think that. I think that there are a lot of people out there that we can connect with and we can build relationships with, but it has to come at the freedom of that choice to love that person. You know, Hayden, she loved me through some things so I could become a better version of myself.
Yeah.
To think that the Creator doesn't have the same sentiment is absolutely insane
Right.
to me.
Sure.
Right.
That it's rhetoric that should be washed out. And I get it. People go, you know, we've said it on here before. If your God's so great, then why this? If your God's so great, well, I don't know. I don't know. I can only tell you what I know. I can only tell you what I've been through. And this is what I do know. True love comes at the cost of being able to make that choice.
Yeah.
You know, if everything was hunky dory, I don't know that everybody's talents would be able to be utilized.
Yeah.
Is that,
It took me a while to understand, and you know, maybe I still don't. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. It took me a while to understand that faith is a choice,
yes.
and I thought faith was, you know, like a magic thing, and you had it or you don't, and if you don't, then you better pray, which is so silly
Yeah.
because since I don't have enough faith in God, I'm going to pray to this God that I don't have enough faith in to give me more faith.
Yeah.
But yeah, it took me a while to realize, and when you realize that it's a choice, then when you come across something that doesn't really make sense to you, and you think about it, and you still can't really, in our limited brain capacity, make it make sense, we can still choose to just do exactly what you just did, though, and say, well, I don't have to know everything. I'm still going to believe.
That's
Yeah.
one of
Yeah.
the most beautiful things that I think we as Jesus followers can say. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And,
don't- I
and
don't-
honest.
Yeah.
It is okay. In fact, we don't. Like, we have to be able to embrace the mystery because
Yes.
we are not all knowing. He
Yeah.
is.
Right.
We're not.
Yep.
So, yeah, I just, you know, I did that whole thing, like working myself to the bone and thinking, this is the way. I'm going to be good. I'm in. It became more about my outward behavior modification than, you know, even though God was pulling me in my heart and there was part of that. It was a both and kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I was exhausted. And then, you know, in 2017, we left a church that I had been part of. And that sort of was a catalyst of me, what I went through, and I still am, a process of untangling my faith. Some people call it deconstruction, right? That's a buzzword now. I don't know if y'all have heard of it, but
I had already planned to say to you today on the show, because you say that on your blog, you know, in the about part of the blog, you use that word, unentangle, untangle. And something last week, I read a book. Well, I listened to a book because I drive so much that I do audiobooks. And I texted you and I mentioned it to you. It's the book about the girl who was one of the Duggars, and who now she's married to a pastor, and she's, denounced the teaching that they grew up in, but she did not denounce Jesus. Wow. She believes in Jesus. She's full of faith. She embraces the grace of Christ. And she says in that book that she doesn't like the term deconstruction. Yeah. And she called it, because she did grow up believing in Jesus, just believing wrongly. Right. So she calls it disentanglement. That's why at the end, when in the what you said, but she kept referring to that and saying not deconstruction, because deconstruction can imply that you're leaving your whole belief in God behind.
Well, there's a lot of different connotations with that word now, because a lot of people have deconstructed and then they're leaving. They're like, you know what, I've deconstructed and now I don't believe anymore.
Yeah.
Mine was like, I had to untangle all of the things that I had learned, even from a little girl, from the man-made stuff, because there were always threads of truth there. Jesus was always there.
Yes.
You know, I believe I was saved when I was 7 or 8 years old, whenever it was that I said that prayer. As saved as I understood myself to be. You know what I mean? Like, and that's another thing that I could talk forever about, like our definition of salvation. I'm learning new ways of thinking about the terms that we all grew up hearing. Salvation is one of them.
Yeah.
Salvation is not an event. It is an ongoing process,
Yeah.
and that's how it's meant to be. It's not just, okay, now you're good. You're now go on your merry way. And no, he's always in the process of bringing us into more wholeness.
Yeah.
Really, that's what salvation is a more complete or wholeness. That's how I view it.
I'm going to tell you right now, this episode is not going to be for everybody, but I'm so glad that you're here because there's something I want to touch on that I have not yet since we started doing this. And that is the point that God is omnipresent. I did a very short stint one time on time travel. There's an episode about that, the one about time traveling. But I had to, a gentleman that I work with, we have this theory, we call it the little boy. We have to work on the little boy inside all the time because the little boy is constantly trying to seek approval of the people who were there that were never there to give the approval for him to feel whole.
Yeah.
What I have learned, and you can think this is crazy if you want to, if you're listening or watching, I really don't give a shit.
What if we're sitting here and we think it's crazy?
Yeah, that's fine too. In the sense of God being omnipresent, God has an ability to go back through time into that place and to begin to heal that portion of the life
100%.
like it never happened. And I had went through a stint, this was not that long ago, this was, I would probably say right at a year, maybe a little bit less than a year, that I asked Hayden, I said, do you think it's possible for something so traumatic to happen that you black it out and you don't realize what it is? And I went through a thing of asking my mother and asking my father and asking some of my family, hey, did anything traumatic that you're aware of happen? Because there was this constant void inside that I couldn't heal because I'm a root guy. Like I was saying before we started, I'm a root person. I want to know what caused this. I want to know the origin of this. I want to know, because if I don't go there, I don't have an understanding of anything past that. So I was trying to dive deep into finding that, what happened with that little boy. I never got my answer. I just had a solemn prayer when I was like, God, I don't know what this is, whatever it is. And I can honestly sit here today and say that that it went back and whatever it was fixed, because I no longer have that. And that's super hard to put into words because that was such a hard, deep, emotional thing in my life, but it is no longer there. So when you speak about the little girl, we have to do that. Well, we don't have to. We don't have to do it. We can continue to walk in this life that we have and wonder why my life sucks. We can do that. But if we can begin to encourage people to go, look, take God out of it, take Jesus out of it, take all this stuff out, and just begin to try to understand who you are, then he'll make himself, he'll manifest himself. So I just wanted to throw that point out there.
Well, I'm glad you get it, and I think that you said that beautifully, actually. That is some of the work I'm very, very passionate about. I'm a spiritual director in training, and a lot of people don't even know what a spiritual director is. But basically, I want to help people know themselves and know God. And really, you can't have one without the other.
Correct. Yes.
It's both. It's a journey of both doing that, and it's a lifetime journey. And we're not going to arrive.
Right.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
And based on what both of you are saying, and the different angles you came from, what's hard for us to wrap our mind around sometimes is that God is not linear. You said, time is not linear to God. When creation happened, the Bible, Genesis, if you take a literal interpretation of it, it tells us that Jesus was there.
Yeah.
Even though we don't, know Jesus until this particular point in time in history. And you said a while ago, and this I hope comes off as complimenting what you said, not disagreeing with it. I hope I say it right. But you said salvation is not just a one-time thing that happens. It's a process. But I think that it's both. because to God, again, he's not bound to that linear flow of time like we are. So from our perspective, it's a process. But to God, the whole process can also be one thing that just happens.
Exactly. No.
Again, we're getting so deep, man.
We
I'm gonna
are.
have to eat a
I mean,
Snickers.
I love
Gotta eat a
it.
Snickers or something.
One of my favorite stories, and I wrote about it recently, is the thief on the cross.
Mm-hmm.
His process wasn't very long, was it? Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't.
No, and that's, I think if we put it in a light of when we were children, we couldn't wait for Christmas.
Right.
You know, it was so damn far away. Christmas, like, what do you mean
Yeah.
it's 2 months away? What do you mean it's 9 months away? And as you grow older, Christmas is just, I mean, it's here.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're already putting Christmas out
Yeah.
in the retail stores. So if you look
We can't believe it. Yeah, we can't believe the other
Can't
day.
believe that. So if
my
you-
mom said, "Can you believe it's already October?"
So if you look at the linear time just from being a child to being an adult of how far apart Christmas is, I think we can begin to wrap our brain around God's process through not being linear, not being in linear time and being omnipresent, to go that it is possible. And we do have the literal example of the thief on the cross, that it was instant. It's right there.
I saw a clip this week, and I don't remember where it came from. If it was scrolling social media or if somebody sent it to me, but it was a pastor, preacher somewhere. He was giving, doing a sermon, and he was talking about the thief on the cross, and he was telling this story as if, he was there and it was happening. And he said, so in heaven, and he did that St. Peter thing, that they always do in Hollywood or whatever. And so St. Peter says to this guy, how'd you get here? And he says, I don't know. I was hanging on this cross next to this other guy, a really good guy, by the way. And he said, you'll be, and then I was here.
Yeah.
But the point that the preacher was trying to make was that in a sense it's the same way for all of us.
Yeah.
Because we don't earn it, we don't do something, we don't have boxes to check off that once you've completed the list of tasks, now you've got it. Because Jesus just said you got it,
Yeah.
Right.
and then if you believe, you do.
The thief on the cross, that's a perfect example of, like, he did not have a statement of belief
Yeah.
or have the doctrinal
Wasn't baptized.
Yeah.
Exactly. None of that. Didn't belong to a denomination or doing all these things. He could not. He didn't even. We don't even know if he believed all the things that supposedly you're supposed to believe
Right.
to be a Christian.
Yeah, he didn't check all his boxes. He just checked one.
That's right.
That's all he did. And
Courtney kept saying that, and that stuck with me about box chicken.
I can't remember where it's at, so they'll probably crucify me for it. But where he says these will be called the least in the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
I adopted philosophy a long time ago. Hell, I've been the least here. I'll be the least there. I'm good with it, man. If I am the least of the people inside the kingdom of heaven, I am there. I don't
Yeah.
care. I mean, I know that's totally out of context, and somebody's going to
Whatever, we don't
run
care.
me up the flagpole.
It was a
on that
beautiful
one.
story.
But that is the truth. I mean, it's the thief hanging on the cross next to Christ was the least. Everybody that followed him was the least, and none of those people had to go through all that stuff.
No.
None of them had to check their boxes.
Right.
They just took up their cross and followed me, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
It's when you think about, we've kind of gotten off into what some people might consider a complicated line of thought, but it's really the opposite of that.
It's so simplistic.
It's just simple. It just is.
We have made it difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We create the difficult constructs. I listened to your episode with Bobby Carter, and y'all were talking about the definition of church.
Mm-hmm.
We are the ones who said, hey, it needs to be this and this and
Yeah.
this. But if you look at the original church, and I was talking with a friend about this, they were meeting in homes.
Yeah.
Maybe that it was never supposed to be on a grander scale than that. I don't know. I'm just saying, like,
Well, I'll go
there's
on
a
and-
beautiful thing that happened.
I'll go on record and say it. I don't think it was. It's Casey at dothedamnshow.com. But I carry that sentiment with me always. I don't think it was. I don't think it was ever intended to be what it is right now. I think it was intended to be exactly what you just illustrated. It's a group of people in a place that have a genuine relationship and yearning to know.
And I was thinking when I was listening to the episode with you and Bobby and the three of y'all, that was church.
Yeah.
I was like, I've been to church right now.
Yeah,
this
you said
morning.
that. I think
Like,
you said that. You said we're doing it right here.
We're doing it right here.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's true. And those people came together not just to sing some songs and study some scripture. They were meeting each other's needs. Now we're getting all dangerous. What are you talking about? You talking about socialism or communism or something? You don't have to label it and call it an ism. It was just a group of people with a common belief in the Lord and Savior who sacrificed His life to give them freedom, and they were helping each other out.
Yeah.
exactly. If I have more than I need and you don't have enough, all Jesus is saying is like, okay,
It's community.
just share.
It's the most basic form of community and caring for those that are around you within the same heart and the same kindred heart.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't, I disagree with people all the time. It doesn't mean that, I guarantee you right now we could sit here and fill out some blank cards between the three of us about some hot button topics. We're going to disagree. We're going to disagree.
yeah.
But it doesn't take away from the kindred spirit of wanting to help people understand that there is a better quality of life that has been faded and it has been jaded over time.
Oh yeah.
And it would be so easy to go, I don't agree with it. You know what I mean? I can't believe you're wearing a Colorado shirt.
Right.
I can't believe it. And sometimes it's
grease stains.
sometimes it's that stupid.
Right.
It really is. But it boils down to, look, this is just a genuine way, and there's a genuine relationship waiting for you to come.
And we talk about this all the time. It changed from what it was supposed to be to organized to the point that somebody could control somebody else.
Yes.
Yes, it's about power a lot of times.
Yeah.
And Jesus came to like obliterate whatever ideas we had of hierarchy.
Yeah.
He just,
So you said there was a change in 2017.
yeah.
So what led up to that change?
The leaving.
Yes.
I just started on my own realizing some things, some dynamics of power, strategy. It seemed more about, this is what it felt like to me. Let's get people in, get them on this trajectory. It was almost like herding cattle.
Yes.
Like,
I agree.
get them through this and doing this, and then so many people were dealing with the same issues over and over. And yes, we're going to deal with the same issues over and over, but at the same time that those people were dealing with issues, they were disciplined for those issues, and that was one of the biggest problems. People were
There went O's microphone.
Oh, come on, brother.
yeah, people were disciplined, and people that are listening to this may think, oh my God, she's heretical or whatever. I do not know where I stand exactly with church discipline, except that I don't agree with it.
I can take a stand on that and say I don't agree with it.
I know that I left, maybe not for the same reasons, but I left a very similar situation not that long before you did. And the reason I know this, even though we haven't known each other that well, is because you started writing the Giant Church Inc. stuff.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm not alone when I say this, but I needed to hear that when you started writing that. That wasn't just something good for me to hear, but that's what I needed to hear then. And it was God really used that in my life, and I know of other people. I'm not going to say their names on here because they're not here, but I know of other people that did too. And so that was something that God really used you to move through with your writing, and I really appreciated it.
Well, so I left in 2017, and I have a very good friend, Tina Thomas. Her husband Kenny was.
Yeah.
They're very good friends.
Talked to Kenny today.
Yeah.
I did too. I'll tell you one. It's
She
funny.
said, Marie, you're going to write about this one day. I'm like, no, I will not, because I didn't even know what was happening. Like, I had never even thought about putting the word spiritual and abuse in the same
sentence.
I did not even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
I
didn't
had
really
no
either.
idea. And so by the time I wrote it in 2020, that was 3 years of, well, almost 3 years of torture. Like, I did not want to write it, but I met with a writing group in Huntsville. They were such good friends to me during that time, because it got dark, because people were contacting me after they would leave, and they would tell me things, and it was just heavy. It was heavy stuff. But I knew I had to write. It was one of those things where, okay, I'm gonna write it.
Yeah,
And
see,
I started writing it.
I didn't
and-
know it was a thing until I read what you wrote.
Yeah.
That's the first time I knew
Oh,
it was
a
a
lot of
thing.
people don't
but
know.
but it made so much sense then. To see, yeah, that's exactly right. And then I saw how it had affected me and mine as well.
I want to preface this comment before I make it with, not all churches are bad. I'm
No.
not saying
Right.
that.
No.
But I'm saying that all people are human.
Right.
I think, Giant Church Inc., if we look back through the history of organized religion in the sense of a church, although I can't pinpoint a time to where spiritual abuse wasn't present.
Right. So this is what happened. I thought, now, the reason that I called it Giant Church Incorporated is because it is not bound to one church. You all know this.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
then in 2021, then the Mars Hill podcast come out. I started writing my thing in 2020, and then we hear about this. Have y'all heard the rise and fall of Mars Hill?
Yeah.
If you've
I
not
have.
listened to that, it was excellently done. But that's in Seattle. It happens
All over the place.
everywhere.
Yep.
Everywhere. I mean, the Catholic Church, that's spiritual abuse, right?
Yeah.
All of that stuff that happened. But what I realized after, before I even wrote it, that's why I wrote it. I'm like, we are in these churches, and there's abuse happening, and we don't even realize that it's spiritual abuse, that people are abusing, they're using God's name and that work, and that is harming people. And here's the thing, you're right, because we are all human, and if we are not intentionally not abusive, then we're always going to grab for power.
Yeah.
We're always going to we have to be intentionally working towards not being that way, because that's just part of our humanity.
Let me say this real quick. I think it's the best example of that I can come up with is Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
When Forrest Gump went for a run, he was just running. That's all he was doing. He was just running. And you got that whole montage about him growing the beard and making the shirt and making the bumper sticker, all that stuff. And then one day he just stopped. And all these people that were running with him stopped and was like, "What do you mean you're stopping? What do you mean? Where are you going?" He never asked for them to go run with me.
Right.
But everybody has that thing inside to where they want to belong to something greater, and they want to have a cause, and they want to have a purpose. And everybody, I don't give a shit who you are, the toughest of the toughest or the shittiest of the shittiest. Everybody seeks for affirmation and confirmation.
And then there are those with the gift of manipulating.
Correct. And that's where I was going with that is whether these people in these positions in Giant Church Incorporated ask for it or not, people are inherently going to do that. They are going to. And they will begin to put somebody on a pedestal that was never meant to be on a pedestal.
Right.
And I know that I've made decisions in my life, and I've made mistakes in my life, and I've made really sound things in my life that I felt like God was pushing me to, that I look back and I go, dude, you were fucking crazy. Like, why on God's, I'm sorry for anybody that got a hold of me after I come home from church camp. I'm sorry. Like, I apologize for pushing those things on you. But I mean, it's one of those things where, how many of them are out there and they're just running. They're just running. That's all they're doing. And they're doing the exact same thing that you and I and Farron are doing right now. Is we're still on a journey to find who we are inside of this. Now, I think there are people out there that purposely do that. They take the manipulative side. Hey, I got it out. I'm surprised I did. They take that for the power. And they don't, and the internal investment stops.
Sometimes even they didn't intend it.
Right.
But then once it starts, they can't stop.
Correct.
But there's a writer out there, her name's Diane Langberg, and she's written about, it's called Redeeming Power. And she talks about that abuse of power. And so that, like you said, Casey, whether they mean to or not, the system sometimes, this church system that we've built, we want somebody to be that.
Yeah. Yep.
And so she's saying it's not only harming us, we're harming the pastors that we idolize as well.
When they become a rock star,
Because this is what I know too about our humanness. Anything can steal the place of God in our lives. Religion, church,
Cheese Whiz, Pop-Tarts.
all of it. I mean,
Wait, where do they meet?
It's not just, I don't know why we think it's only sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I mean, religion is one of the number one things that steals the place of God.
Charlie Kane's episode, I'm not even going to attempt to say when it was because I'll get smacked for time stamping again. But Charlie, remember what he said? He said religion is, if you take the Bible, you just take all the God out of it. That's religion.
Yeah. I mean, you just leave the law in
take
it.
love out of it.
Yeah, there you go. It's just the Bible minus, what it's actually supposed to mean.
Yeah.
It's it's weaponized and
A combative nature.
And then it's no wonder that there's so many people now that'll tell you that they have no desire to step foot in a church.
Well, and that's
they see this from, even if they've never been there and gotten hurt.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people that come and talk with us on the show, even if they've always just been on the outside looking in, that's what they see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I do this thing where I cross my fingers if I have a point so I don't lose it. But they've been crossed for a minute. But it's something that I want to admit today is I personally have a problem saying the word Jesus because of the negative connotation that comes with it.
Yeah.
That's a lot of times on the show I'll mention a God character. If you'll just give this God character a try. Because I think we would be doing people a disservice if we didn't begin to try to help them begin a journey to understanding the what did you say, the untangling, what was it, untangling all of that, because we have to. It's been so berated over time with Jesus, and that's associated with hypocrites and assholes. That why on God's green earth would anybody want to try it? Yeah. Because all you have to look at is Giant Church Inc. As a whole. That's all you have. That is the example that is set forth for people. Well, why? I'm inundated with politics in my daily life every day. Why would I want to freely belong to something that is going to promote the same thing?
Right.
Well, I carry around cards. I've gotten different iterations of cards made for our show in our studio. And because we want people to listen, and I carry around cards, and I give them out all the time. It don't matter to me how old you are, where you're from, what color you are, how you talk, nothing. I'll give them out. And every time when somebody says, "Well, what's it about?" and then I go to tell them, most of the time, "Oh, okay."
I never tell people it's about Jesus.
Yeah,
I never do. I tell them it's a journey. It's about a journey to a real God. At the least, But I'm glad that you do,
Well, what
because
I
it's not
say-
something I will do.
Well, what I say that maybe is wrong, and maybe it's a cowardly way to do it. But what I'll say is, well, if you ask somebody that's not a Christian, they'll probably tell you it's a Christian podcast. But if you ask most people that are religious, they'll tell you it's definitely not.
Yeah.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, a lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times, then they say, and they'll look at it again and they start to reconsider. Maybe I will listen to this.
Which I would imagine that's how a lot of your stuff went. You had to have been met with some kind of opposition,
I was.
because that's a huge step.
Yeah.
To
I was
take
terrified.
that.
Yeah. I was terrified because I was still friends with a lot of the people. No, some of the people not, but I did have a core group of friends that I was still very, very close to. And two of them, I hit publish, and then I texted them. I'm like, I need y'all to know that, and I told them, they're like, oh, we love you and we support you. And, but then it slowly, I don't think intentionally, that just happens,
So I'm curious, and if you didn't go through it, that's fine. I did it. And I still do it at times. I had to venture into a point to where I no longer was like, you're the piece of shit. You're the blah, 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 blah. Did you have that season to where when you were writing, like, it's like, the text messages
Oh
that
my
you back
God.
out? And
This is why I took 3 years to write it, because I was pissed for a while.
yeah,
And the more I would hear stories, then it would
madder
rise
you
up
got.
again. And I'm just like, oh, wow, I've got to get over this. So I wanted to take a calm, regulated, reasonable, viewpoint. That's how I wanted it to come across. Not out
So
of
you
anger.
tried to not be like a normal human person.
Exactly. I tried to not be my normal, but no, a lot of, so my friends helped me with that. My family, I had friends that I did vent to. We still, like, I have this group of friends that all came out of that. We call ourselves the Healing Place.
yeah.
And Courtney's one of them. I don't know if she told y'all about that, but anyway, yeah, we would, like, that's where the anger really came out. But when it came to the blog, I wanted, because a lot of times, when people rage and yell and blame and point the fingers, you lose your voice.
Yes.
So you have to just say this is my story. Nobody can argue with it. What happened? Like, this is my story.
Right.
And I hope it came across to where, like, yes, I'm pointing things out, but I never wanted it to sound like they're pieces of crap.
Right.
I did,
Yeah.
that was never my point. My point was to, like you're doing, Casey, to tell people, like, that's not God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not how he works.
That's not the real
That-
Jesus.
that's-
Please don't let that turn you off from
That's
Jesus.
not what it's about. That's not even what he had in mind. So get to know, if you want to stay that's fine, but get to know.
Yep.
Get on a journey of, like, getting to
that's
know
the thing is
God is.
trying to help people untangle and see that the spiritual abuse or the things that are happening supposedly in the name of Jesus, but that are just lining other people's pockets rather than helping the ones that need it. No. That's not the real Jesus.
Right.
I can't help but think that if you two had known each other better and had worked on it together, it would have been called Giant Church Inc. Damn it.
So I asked that because there's a whole lot of people out there that, one, they don't realize that a lot of that pent-up aggression and anger stems from what we have identified today as spiritual abuse, let alone what the fuck to do with it. Yeah. It is. And so I wanted to offer some encouragement that it is real.
No.
And you're okay
Yeah.
to feel that way.
Yeah.
You're
completely.
human. That's one. I know I talk about hating a lot, but she's the one that changed my life. What she did for me was she allowed me to be human, and she loved me through it.
Right.
Now it hurt her,
Yeah.
but she did that, and God's process is the same way. Like, it's okay to be pissed off. It's okay to be mad.
Oh,
it's
I mean, look at the Psalms. David is raging, you know?
Yeah. It's what we do with it. How we can Romans 8:28 it to where he works everything together for the good.
Right.
But I was just curious about that because I had a feeling that you did. I mean, because you're human. Everybody goes through those
I mean,
things.
y'all, for about a year and a half, I would go to Planet Fitness after work, and I was like working it out in my head, just, because I was so mad. I had to go somewhere,
Yeah.
That's kind of, I went through something kind of like that too, except I was eating pizzas.
Right. Well, you know what? I did a lot of Spartan races during that time too.
It was better than Pabst Blue Ribbon because that's where I took mine.
Oh, wow.
I drank through mine, man.
Yeah. Well, I want to throw something out here. There's people. We say a lot of things like you were just saying, Casey, about it's okay to feel this way, and you go through these things. I think one of the purposes of this show has evolved into not only is it okay, but there's other people too that can relate. And you talked about the healing. Y'all call it the healing group, the healing place,
The healing place.
the healing place. Some people maybe listening to this at one point in my life, I would have maybe can benefit from finding the other people. Maybe they're just a little bit further along the journey than you are, even if they haven't figured it out yet. Whatever it is you're going through now, maybe they can say, "Oh yeah, I've been through that too." Yeah, find that support. If it doesn't have to be, we've said this over and over, but it can be inside a quote unquote church, but it doesn't have to be.
Right.
It can just be that community that you find.
Yeah, and because that's to me, again, it's nothing against churches. But to me, that's where true healing begins. Because unfortunately,
community.
I say unfortunately, it's just part of the process. God has to take us to a place to where it's just us and God. That's it. And once we get there and we allow it to happen, He begins to put things in place and place people in there that are a little bit further along. They're not better. They've just been through some things. They're good mentors to find that. And there's pockets of those all over the damn place.
and then at some point, then you become one of those.
Yes,
And
exactly.
you go from being the one looking for that help to being the one that somebody else is looking for.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what community is.
And that's the whole purpose of this show.
Right.
That's the whole purpose of having people like you on this show.
Well,
so people get it.
I appreciate that because, I'm passionate too about people knowing that we have equal access to God. Like the pastors don't have more
That's right.
access.
I laugh because what am I not going to do, Farron?
Casey is not going to pray with you at the gas pump. You can do that yourself.
That's my philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, and blurring the lines between sacred and secular. That's our own wording.
That's us.
I mean, we know God can speak through an audio slave song. We talked about that earlier.
Yes.
He's always done that with me, too. But here's what part of, to me, healing and salvation and, that big word that some people use, sanctification, is all about. It's learning to pay more attention to God working in your life because He always is.
Yes.
So when you went back to that little boy, and I would encourage everybody to do this. We just don't know how to do it, but go back and see where God, because He was there. That's the thing about God. He's different than other gods,
Yeah.
He's present.
Yes.
And He always was. We just weren't paying attention to it.
Yep. Or we become so blinded by the things in our life. And I do think there's certain mental illnesses and things that can hinder people from, fully grabbing the scope and gravity of all of it. But your average person walking around, we have a choice. We can live in the fact that my dad beat me and that's who I am. Or, my dad beat me, My dad didn't beat me, by the way. But, that's who I am, but that does not define me.
Right.
And I'm going to, you have a choice. It's a 50-50. You have A or B, red pill, blue pill. There is no gray area. You can live in the gray area. You can certainly do that. It just prolongs where you're going.
Yeah.
And the process with God is very much like that. I can just accept and go, yeah, I don't know why all this bad shit happened to me. I have no idea why it did. But what did I get from those things? How did I become stronger through some of these trials?
Yeah.
And I had to go through a bitterness with God. Like I did not like him at all. But the transition came to where I could begin to see, oh, shit, you were there. You may have just been sitting in the corner, not doing anything, but you were there because I'm still here,
Because Jesus said, in this life we will have trouble.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he's promised his presence in those times.
Yep.
And he's with us. And that's one thing. All of my children, my adult children, are struggling in their faith and trying to make sense of their church experience, which was mostly Giant Church Incorporated. But I can see that they're curious and they're wondering about things again. But that's their journey. I'm not worried about them anymore.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't have to panic and think, oh no, they need to be doing this, and these outward behaviors no.
Yeah.
God knows the heart.
Yep.
Yeah.
He knows the heart.
And that's the toughest thing to do, is to get into that position, not only to be submissive in myself, but to let go of those around me, to go, God, just whatever, dude.
Right.
I'm here. I'm going to be here, and I know you're going to work through it, because I have to do that with my oldest daughter too, But they will, and not to get cliche and corny and all that good jazz, but the prodigal son, if you reread that story in a different light, it's he does not, Isaiah 55:11, what he puts forth out of his mouth does not come back void.
Right.
It's the same thing through the heart.
Yeah.
It will make its way back, and that. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but it may be even in that little finite time between life and death. They may make that. They may be the thief on the cross.
Yeah.
And that's all that fucking matters anyway. Is that little period of time. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm doing what you do with the fingers crossed.
Yeah, go for it.
I was waiting because it wasn't a particularly serious thing, so I didn't want to insert it at the wrong time. But you said prodigal son. So I saw Willie Nelson Outlaw tour. I won't say last night because that would timestamp this. But anyway, it was the best. My wife got tickets for a birthday because two of my absolute all-time favorites were together, the Avett Brothers and Willie Nelson and Family.
The Avett Brothers.
Well, one of the opening acts for Willie Nelson and Family was the Particle Kid. I didn't know who the Particle Kid was. Well, I got there and I realized that it was one of Willie's sons, Micah Nelson. And most of the Heartbreakers, from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, they also go by the name Dirty Knobs. But anyway, Micah. So I was like, I wonder why he's calling himself Particle Kid. So in this wonderful, magical age that we live in where you take out your phone and you Google it, it said that Micah came home one night and Willie had just smoked a fat one and was trying to make a joke and say, the prodigal son has come home. But in his stupor, he said, the Particle Kid has come home. And they thought that was so funny. And Micah held on to that and then named his band.
That's awesome.
The Particle Kid. Yeah, I love that.
So speaking of kid, we're wound down to the end of the episode. And I definitely want to have you back. Definitely.
Okay.
For sure.
But I'm going to let a cat out of the bag that I've never done. Since we went deep on this one, right? We talked about omnipresent God and kind of went in some topics.
Yes.
We're going to get into the meat of the questions. We asked 3 questions at the end of the show.
Okay.
I don't know that I've ever disclosed why, particularly, we asked those questions. The first one is, if you're traveling and you're stopping at a truck stop, what are you coming out with? The other one is, travel back to your favorite Christmas. What did you have? What's that one gift that stood out? And then the third one is, what's your tombstone message, your message to the masses? Specifically, since it was a hot topic tonight, the second one about going back to the Christmas. Because I'm an artist and because I like to do things subconsciously, it is a way for people to begin that journey back to the childhood, to the thing that harmed them to put them on the path that they are if they hear that. It's not for everybody, but it is for somebody. So everything we do on this show, whether it sounds like it or not, has a meaning and a reason for it.
Everything?
Almost everything.
Because I'm thinking of a couple of things that now are making me feel kind of shallow.
So the truck stop aspect of it is we all have something in common, but we're all very much different. We are all very different. Nobody to date has come out of the truck stop with the same thing.
Well, see, now I thought the truck stop thing was because we're fat guys and we were just looking for suggestions.
Well, that too.
Because that has happened for me.
Because I
still, thanks to Josh Harris,
Dill Pickle Slim
search
Jim.
for Dill Pickle Slim Jims.
They're-
And you know,
they're
almost no one has them.
amazing.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
But the only one I've had was one he brought me because all the driving I do, everywhere I stop, I look for them, and I haven't found them anywhere else
I picked
yet.
one up in Kentucky shortly after that episode. I think I went to Kentucky the week after that.
Dill Pickle. Yeah, you sent us a
up.
picture. Dill
Yep,
Pickle
it was
Slim
good.
Jim. Yeah.
So on that note, you're on a road trip. You stop into a truck stop. What are you coming out with? Favorite drink, snack?
Okay, first I want to say something. I just realized y'all kept saying timestamp, and I'm
Oh
like,
yeah,
It's supposed to be.
yes,
Casey
you're
uses
not
the term.
supposed to.
Casey uses this term evergreen
it.
material. You know, if somebody listens to this in 5 years, it shouldn't matter.
Exactly.
It should still be relevant. But every time I would say something like, well, last week when such and such happened, he'd be like,
Right.
was 4 weeks
I
ago.
hope I didn't timestamp
no, we
anything.
timestamp it all the
even
time.
if we
Okay.
ever,
It's
if
a
we ever
running
record
joke now.
back-to-back episodes, I was even changing my shirts
Yeah.
in between the episodes.
I turned my
until
hat
I
around
realized
backwards.
he wasn't doing it. And so then I was like, I ain't doing that anymore either. So hope y'all like the shirt because it'll also be on next week.
Okay, the snack. If I want something crunchy, it's going to be Kettle brand salt and black pepper potato chips.
Nice.
those are good.
Those are solid.
Man,
That is solid.
so good.
I learned the hard way though that if you eat 2 bags back to back,
Yeah.
if you eat 2 bags of them
That
back to
would be
back,
bad.
you will completely destroy the roof of your mouth.
Yeah.
Captain Crunch, baby.
That's right. Oh gosh, that's terrible. Something sweet would be, just a good old Hershey's candy bar.
There you go.
Nice.
Basic milk chocolate.
No
To
almonds.
me,
There you
it's
go.
the best chocolate in the world.
And just the milk
That's it.
chocolate. You don't need the almonds.
no.
What about a drink?
Oh, Dr. Pepper.
Okay.
I
Dr.
love
Pepper's a
Dr.
solid
Pepper.
answer.
Yeah.
Do you go with the fully leaded Dr. Pepper, or do you like
fully
the Dr.
leaded.
Pepper Zero?
Now, I don't drink that much soda, but if I'm going to, it's always going to be a Dr. Pepper.
Okay.
Full on. I don't do dry diet or zero stuff.
I used to know a guy, but he was a Yankee, so this probably explains it. But I don't even know why I said that. But anyway, he loved Dr. Pepper, but this is how he had to have his Dr. Pepper. At night before he went to bed, he would open a can of Dr. Pepper, set it on the counter. So then in the morning it would be lukewarm and flat
No.
because he had to have his Dr.
No.
Pepper lukewarm and flat.
No.
Oh, see, I want it the fizzier the better.
The crisp.
what I say.
That cold, crisp.
yeah, I mean,
Burn on the way down.
Yeah,
Well, he also told me that as a kid, that his mom would put it in a pot and heat it on the stove and
No.
drink it hot.
No.
Yeah.
No. Absolutely not.
Not trying that.
I wouldn't even do that to Mr. Pibb.
No.
He don't even have a degree.
So traveling back to your favorite childhood Christmas, you wake up, what's under the tree?
One of my favorite things was an Etch-a-Sketch.
Nice.
Oh, sweet.
I draw, and actually, I've had one since I was as an adult because I like to draw on the Etch-a-Sketch.
Can you do the crazy drawings on it? I've tried. I can't do it.
I mean, yeah, I can.
Where you can actually do curved lines.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't.
I learned how to do it.
Wow.
That's awesome. I want to get you one. Would you draw us a picture?
Well, yeah.
Because I would
mean-
love to get it and how they make it permanent and
Oh,
put it on the
yeah.
wall.
Okay.
I would
That'd be cool.
love to do that.
All right.
That would be super cool.
Hey, that's on the list. Etch-a-Sketch. All right, so
Display it right next
Yeah.
to the World Wiener Belt Championship.
heavyweight wiener champion of the world.
Kramer
Michael
got his hand
Richards.
up. He could hold it. We could put the education
In his hand.
and he's showing it to everybody.
So, God forbid something happened to you when you leave here. This is the last verbal statement that somebody would hear Marie say. What is your tombstone message, your message to the masses? What would that be?
Short and sweet. Pay attention.
I like
That's
it.
good.
I like it. Pay attention.
attention.
I thought maybe you were going to say no almonds.
Yeah,
no
maybe. Frederick Buechner says it like this: "Listen to your life."
Ooh.
Oh wow, I like that. Mm-hmm. I'm a huge fan of that one now. Listen to
Frederick
your-
Buechner is one.
How you spell Beekner?
You know what? It's well, it's spelled Buechner, but I
Oh.
think they pronounce it Buechner.
Okay, gotcha.
We'll have to look that one up.
Now
we,
I have to
we
look.
need to tag that one in.
Buechner, yeah.
Because Listen to Your Life, wow, he has a whole he doesn't call them devotionals, but they're like daily meditations.
Sure.
That's awesome.
It's beautiful.
I want to encourage everybody too that to look up livelikeitmatters.net
Yes,
because
absolutely.
I really like your blog. I get a lot of good stuff out of it. I get a lot of good wisdom, but your writing style too is just entertaining. So sometimes it's a deep message, and sometimes it was just a fun read.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very good.
Well,
Awesome.
and if you like hot dogs,
Have you ever written a blog about hot dogs?
Jason Such with Primetime Lawn Care.
Primetime hot dog.
Primetime hot dog.
My kids say PTHD now.
I love it,
Oh,
dude. On that note, we've got Jason's sign back here. We want to thank Jason with Primetime Lawn Care.
I heard a rumor he's your buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Such. I think Such is a little bit of everybody's
I've
buddy.
known a lot of people that y'all have had on.
Yeah.
Like Charlie Kane connection.
Sweet.
Yeah.
See, that's the beautiful part of it too. It's like 6
I
degrees of
know.
Kevin Bacon, man. Yeah,
Telling you.
You can pin it back to just about anywhere.
6 degrees of Jason Such.
6 degrees of Jason Such, and you can reach Jason at Primetime Lawn Care at 256-606-3064. But don't call him on Saturday and Sunday because he recognizes both of them as the Sabbath, and he takes the good way out.
And like Bobby said, he rests on the 7th and first day.
Yeah, the 7th and the first day. So go out through your day today. Remember to be real, be you, and be salt. Go out and love somebody, but before you do that, make sure that you love yourself. Love you guys. We're out of here.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, man, I forgot. I had another good one.
Yes, I lay here in my deathbed and my journey's to a close. I need the comfort of my kin to light my way. Don't fret for my soul, please, cause I found my inner peace. Won't you join me as I tarry on the riverside? What you gonna do?